getting it right, and having the stamina to sort of weather away the ups and downs. And I think the fact that we are growing like absolutely, what we have achieved in the last 12 months or 18 months has been more than what we achieved in the last 6 years, 5 years.
Welcome everyone to Startup Dunia, showcasing the incredible journey of startups brought to you by SME Venture. This is Yasmin Khan, your host, and today I am truly delighted to welcome powerful leader, visionary personality, founder and CEO of Bangalore-based startup SnapBiz, Mr. Prem Kumar. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here with you today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. So before we get started, let me tell you, Snap was founded in the year 2013 and transformed 13,000 Kirana stores across 110 cities into virtual supermarkets with its Android window-based cloud platform solutions. So through this conversation, we'll try to get more insights of SnapBiz from you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I have had a very long career globally across almost every developed market and developing market, including countries like Africa, Russia, India, China, and I've built a company fairly similar to this in Eastern Europe today, which is part of a IT major. And I've been very close to the small merchant space has been very, very close to my heart. To me, we have, for example, we have roughly about 12 to 14 million Kirana stores in this country. And the way I see it is, it is a national infrastructure, probably comparable to the railroads or the power grids or the railways, because this is the infrastructure that serves the 1.3 billion population of this country, right? India is socioeconomically very diverse and ethnically also equally diverse, right? I mean, we have multiple languages, so it's a very diverse country, and it's like the whole of Europe put together under one roof, right? From an ethnicity perspective and a socioeconomic perspective. And it is this infrastructure that keeps the country going, right? So it's not a narrative about small merchants. It is about the narrative about what a national infrastructure is all about, right? Because in a country like India, where you have a 60 to 70% of the baskets or the shopping is below 200 rupees and has probably 5 or 6 items in the basket, and people do buy almost 3 to 5 times a week in many cases, not because they want to buy 3 to 5 times in a week, but that's all the purchasing power they have, right? At the end of the day, they have 100 rupees in their pocket, they want to shop for the next day, right? So that's the country that we are really talking about, and that's the infrastructure that is servicing this country, right? So if something was to happen to the small merchants and the viability of their business becomes questionable or the feasibility becomes questionable, of course, the merchants would suffer, their families would suffer, the employment would suffer, but more than that, at least a billion consumers will suffer, right? Because where do you run to buy a tikki of soap or 100 grams of sugar? So this is not about the top 100 million population of this country. This is about the next 500 and the next 500 million populations of this country. So we've been very passionate about this. We are a spin-off from Qualcomm. So actually, our journey started with Qualcomm wanting to carry wireless technology into fragmented retail, and they did a pilot in India, incidentally in Mumbai and Hyderabad, in 2 places, and they had a reasonable amount of success, and they were looking at scaling it out. At which stage they did a global search as to who had built something like this successfully in the past, and I had built a company fairly similar to this in Eastern Europe, including Russia, CIS countries. It still is the market leader there. So we got together and I said, look, the pure play of selling a solution to a merchant is a difficult proposition, because merchants do not want technology or hardware or software. What they want is here and now outcomes of businesses, solutions to business problems, right? So that's where we got started. And then the second thing, when we looked at the entire market, what we did find is that there were horizontal accounting solutions, but there wasn't a solution. So most solutions that existed in the market were actually built to satisfy accountants, rather than the business process or business owner of a small shop, right? I mean, and consumption or usage and adoption was a major challenge. So when we looked at it deeply, what we found is that there are 4 key challenges that a shop has. One is, how do you handle peak hour traffic? You know, there are 20 customers standing there. Some of them want 20 products. Somebody wants a packet of milk. Secondly, 50% of the sales of a shop like this is loose items. You know, there's a bag of rice. You scoop a little rice out of it and weigh it and give it, right? So how do you build packaged goods and loose item at the same speed, right? The third thing is interoperability, right? Because if you look at whatever solutions are there, they're by and large used by the owner himself, unless it's a very, very large supermarket or hypermarket, right? So and which base and it works on the memory of the merchant, like, you know, 22 is rice, 22 \1 is basmati, \2 is rice. It basically means nobody else can use it, right? So we said, how do you get and the last but not the least was that, you know, there are multiple workflows that do exist in a shop like this, right? Somewhere Chotu gives and takes money, somewhere Chotu yells at owner makes a bill, there's home delivery, there is credit to customers. Almost 60-70% of the shops give credit to customers, 30-40% of their sales is on credit to consumers. So how do you accommodate all of this, right? So that's where we sort of literally chiseled away to build a solution bottom up to sort of overcome some of these challenges, because our business model is completely based on consumption, not an acquisition of a merchant, right? And that's the only way to disrupt it, because so what we really offer a small merchant is a money making machine. We think more like a toothpaste company, although we are a technology company. So we provide the merchant an opportunity to make a money making machine. What we look at us ourselves as a brother of the merchant sitting inside the shop, and we take that very seriously. And so we are the brother of the merchant sitting inside the shop. We understand the store in its totality. We take the store online, give the store an online presence, basically, which helps him sell more to his current customers and acquire new customers. We provide a solution for him to carry out the various store operations, like, you know, billing, inventory, kata management, consumer tracking, etc., etc. And then what we interestingly do is we connect the merchant through the cloud to the various stakeholders of the ecosystem, right? So we work with almost 80 brands, FMCG brands. So the brands can now get the last mile connect with consumer and merchant. And the benefit out of that is that they get a lot of promotions coming from, like, let's say you are standing at the shop, you are buying green tea. And I know there's a correlation between green tea and digestive biscuits. And why do I know it? Because we are looking at a lot of data. So I would give you a coupon for digestive biscuits. And the chances of you buying it is very high, right? So that is an incremental sale created to the retailer, right? So similarly, we also work with almost every supplier of goods, which is the distributor, wholesaler, etc. And the last year has been a completely dramatic change for us, in the sense we have now working with almost every leading bank in this country. And the banks are deploying our solution into their merchant footprint and their consumer footprint, right? And the reason for that is more directed towards an embedded finance approach, whereby the financial service players get embedded into the business of the merchant, and then can forward integrate themselves down to the consumer who shops at that shop, and backward integrate into the suppliers who supply to the shop, and hence provide the financial service needs. So till the beginning of last year, before the pandemic, we were largely focused on the movement of goods, right, and promotions and marketing activities. But just after the pandemic, and what triggered that was, most of these merchants work on hand loans, right? Their working capital support comes from informal financial service sectors, right? You know, you send an SMS to somebody, he comes and gives you cash. You send an SMS, he comes and takes the cash, kind of thing, right? But that completely dried up. So these people were struggling. So we said, look, they can't get financial support unless they get financially included in the ecosystem. And you can't get financially included unless and until you digitize yourself, right? Because everything around this merchant had changed so dramatically, right? So the consumer changed a lot in the last 2 years. Most of the shopping became digital. Most of the payments became digital. less people were coming to the shop. A lot more was home delivery. Home delivery was 20-25%. Now it's almost 80% of the sales, right? The supply of goods became very digital. The supply of money became very digital. So there is no way this guy can survive unless he goes digital, right? So that is how this whole transformation happened. And it's been an exciting journey. And what makes us very happy is a few things like, when the shopkeeper comes in the morning, he puts a tilak on us on the machine, which basically means we are part of his life. Or what we get thanked for most is many merchants tell us like, hum abhi ghar jate hain khane ke liye, kind of thing. So that's the lighter side of success. But those are very important aspects of success.
Great, sir. I have perfectly introduced you as a visionary personality. I can see like your visions and your missions are turning so drastically, and it has grown. Like you have, touched the soul of every consumer and even the merchants. And I can say that it's a
Yeah,
great
thanks.
journey,
Thanks.
sir.
No, actually,
Now,
the very interesting thing is that we have been able to solve problem for all the stakeholders, right? So you have the consumer who wants shopping, hyper-local shopping. You have the merchant who wants to grow his business. You have the brands who want to connect with consumers and merchants. You have the research agencies which want the data. You want the banks and the financial services who want to lend money to them. So it's sort of an ecosystem platform for the grocery industry. And the good news has been the platform has been so much acknowledged that we have now rolled out in partnership with some very big majors into Southeast Asia. We are going into Africa, Middle East, etc. So as we speak, we are rolling out in 2-3 countries in Southeast Asia in a big way.
great, great. Sir, now moving forward, I would like to know, I have saw the YouTube channel of Snapbiz, and I can see how social impact, like how positive was the impact of Snapbiz. So this is both interesting and sensitive question. Like from your perspective, what is the major social impact created by Snapbiz?
Yeah, so while our vision is to holistically transform the life of a merchant, right? Our mission is to transform the business, right? Because we really don't know how to transform life in its totality. So what has really happened is there are multiple dimensions that it has impacted the merchant, right? In terms of he's becoming far more profitable. His business has gone up. His sales has increased. His number of customers have increased. His purchase side has become better. He has got access to a lot of new finance, right? Working capital support. The cost of working capital support has gone down. He is getting a lot more support from brands. So it is not that brands do not want to run promotions in these shops. The problem is they do not know how to do it, right? How do I target the right consumer? So let's say you are there. How do I know that you are there? How do I give you the right offer for which I need to know what you buy and you don't buy? How do I ensure that you get the offer? And how do I ensure that you redeem it? And if you redeem it, how do I make sure the merchant gets back the money, right? So there were massive challenges of this nature, right? So those are what we have overcome. So what we have managed to do is to improve the profitability of the merchant by at least 20 to 25%. But more important than that, I think we have also transformed his lifestyle significantly, right? Which is also now in the last 6 months or so, we have been successful, or probably we have been the only ones to get a philanthropy support for small merchants below 40-50 lakhs per annum to adopt our solution with the support of the various large philanthropy systems that do exist in the country. So we are partnered with Samita. Samita does a lot of support to the small merchant space. Partners like the large banks, partners like the large brands do help us a lot in trying to make all of this happen. So while the business has definitely improved, profitability financially, access to working capital has improved, but I think the life has also improved a bit, right? And for instance, one small thing is um, one of the things which makes me the most happiest is while I was in Pune, once the boy who worked in the shop, when I went to the shop, told me, thank you very much. I got a 1,200 rupee salary increase, and my sister is now going to a better school, right? So I said, what did we do? No, sales but gaya, sir. I got an increment, right? Now, 1,000 rupees doesn't look like a big sum of money, but it's making a huge difference to that guy's life, right? So these are sort of things that make us very happy when we are able to sort of
social impact you create.
yeah. Or similarly, during this pandemic time, they were all struggling for supply of goods, right? Because they couldn't open the shop. They were hardly opening the shop for 2-3 hours in a day. So what we could organize is we looked at the gaps in supply chain. We spoke to the various companies saying that, look, this guys are suffering because they are not able to get the goods or something. But somebody has to point it out, right? Somebody has to flag it off. So things like that is what makes a lot of difference to people. You're touching them every day in every transaction, every hour of their life, right? So that's what we sort of, the financial part of it is always there, right? Because that's the foundation to it, right? So they get to about 20-25% increase in sale margins. That's what we achieve.
That's great, sir. And the true social impact you created is, the real happiness, and I can say you have given the technology to people who are not aware of technologies, and they can use it very easily, and that's the major impact you created. That's the great thing.
No, actually, it's slightly more than that, in the sense that what we have done is we have created a digital highway for goods and now,
Right.
let's say you are an insurance player and you have a health insurance scheme for small merchant. You could not have reached the small merchant before, but now you can pass it through me to pass it through us to the small merchant, right? Or you have a health saving scheme, right? Something like that. Or you have certain promotions for the merchant, or you have maybe you want to give hand sanitizer in education or whatever that is, right? But you have now created a pipeline through which people who are, like, for example, we are now partnered with Tarnia, which does skilling education for these merchants. We are also partnered with some programs which enable women empowerment, right? Because this for a woman is the best job that she could probably get in an environment like that, because most of these shops are in the house. If the lady can run that shop, which is a very safe environment to be in, the man of the store can go and get another job outside, right? Which would probably fetch him 15,000 rupees salary, which means you have now increased the household income 1.5 times, right? Now, and this lady doesn't have to leave the house. She can still take care of the house, the kids and the cooking in between. So it's a great job to have for a lady to run the shop, right? So these are things that we enable happen. I'm not saying we make it happen, but we enable happening.
Yes, sir. That's so great. Now, moving forward, I would like to know, sir, how easy or difficult it was to introduce the technology to people who are not so aware of technology, and who are not so handy with things which are nowadays so common. And how was the response from start for Snapbiz?
So first and foremost, we don't look at it as we are providing technology. We look at it as business transformation or solutions to business problems. The second thing is, when we talk about solution to business problems, we talk about solutions to today's problems, not tomorrow's problems, right? Because this is a small business, right? He have to solve today's problems. He's not talking about what his balance sheet is going to look like in 2025. He's more worried about what will happen in August, right? So that is one of the reasons why it took us a lot of time to build the right solution. And building the right solution means it has to be consumption-led ease of use, right? For example, today, if a solution of ours is deployed in the store, there's already a catalog which covers almost 98% of the products that are available in the store. So let's say Chotu is a boy, he just have to, as long as doesn't even have to be literate, as long as he's not colorblind and he knows 1 to 0, he can start working with the solution from the next 2-3 minutes, that kind of thing. Or say, take for example, you want to take the store online. It just takes 3 to 5 minutes flat for the retailer to be an online store, right? So the simplification of the solution and the building of that solution bottom up use case by use case, workflow by workflow is what creates the huge difference. So it's it's not about technology, although the technology is what people recognize us for, is what they see about us in the front is very stupidly simple. The underlying engine below the hood is super complex, right? So how do you take complex levels of technology and simplify it to the lowest common denominator of consumption?
Okay, sir. Moving forward, I would like to know, sir, like what have been the highs and lows to your journey so far?
So we made a share of mistakes. So in the initial years, we went wrong with a few of the product-led decisions, especially on the integration with hardwares and things like that. Like, for example, we first started off on a tablet. It was working very well for the merchant, but we didn't realize that the merchant will connect the tablet to a power source 24/7, 365. So the battery got overheated, kind of thing. So we did go through a little bit of a learning curve there. But we were quite committed to sort of, not make the move till we got it right? The second stage was when the demonetization and the GST happened, right? That actually took away two years out of our company, because not because these were eventually great tailwinds, because GST was a major tailwind because it created one business entity out of the whole country, right? But there was a period of inertia when everybody was confused and said that, look, I don't know what I should be doing. I don't understand what is happening, so I won't do anything, right? That sort of gave us a major setback for a couple of years. But the good news has been that we've been, even when COVID happened for the first few months, we never knew what was going to happen. But then we realized quickly that these are the times when we could be most meaningful to a merchant, because people were not coming to the shop and home deliveries were happening, shopping was getting very difficult. So because our whole engineering architecture is very modular in nature, we broke the product into multiple pieces and started moving different pieces at different velocities in the market, right? So it has been a roller coaster, but the great news is that I think our fundamentals are rock solid, right? We have a very meaningful proposition. We have a very sustainable proposition, because a shop can have only one solution inside the shop. It can't have 10 solutions inside the shop, right? We are sitting on pristine data. Data can make a huge difference to the whole ecosystem, not just to the small merchant, even to the consumer, the brands, the distributors, the wholesalers, the financial service, the banks, etc. So we have something solid. We definitely have a massive head start, at least a 6-point delta on a 10-point scale on product, which is probably why we have passed the highest standards of information security guidelines. We have been chosen by almost every leading philanthropy. We have been chosen by overseas markets where it's all a lot of inbound interest. So we're doing quite a few things right. We could be doing a few things better.
Yes, sir, definitely. I can say that the journey, all the ups and downs have been the best part of your life. I think so, because this all things teach us, and that's how we grow, and that's
Yeah.
a great thing. So I would like to know one thing, sir, out of the box, like what inspires you keep going? Like you are so energetic, and like what inspires you to be such a great personality?
No, so it's basically, it's very simple, right? I'm very committed to the purpose, and not just me. The whole organization is very committed. What binds all of us together is the purpose of our journey. We actually believe that the small merchants need a helping hand. We all actually believe that they have a reason to be there. We actually believe that they are rendering a service to consumers, right? Because Indian grocery ecosystem is an extremely, I have a lot of respect for it, right? You tell me, in which country in the world can a lady with long hair wash her hair for 1 rupee? A sachet of shampoo in India costs 1 rupee, right?
Definitely, sir. Right.
Even in China, a sachet of shampoo would cost 4 rupees, right? So a retailer in India works at 10% margin and still runs his house. The global norm for retailing is about 35% margin, right? a distributor of a large company in India works at 3 to 5% margin. Globally, the norm for retailing distribution is 15% margin. So there is a very heavy fabric of efficiency. India is probably the only country where the consumer is protected with an MRP. Nowhere else in the world does it exist, right? It's dynamic pricing, etc. So here the maximum price is there. So you could be Agartala, or you could be in Trivandrum, probably don't know, but it's very difficult to make a fool of you because the price is protected, the product is protected. You know, there's a decent, very good system. So what we believe is that this system can do much better with the adoption of technology, right? And it is better to build on the system to become stronger rather than try to invent a new system. It's like saying, right, just because there is an airlines between Bombay and Bangalore, it's not that the bus and the train is not required, right? Because there are a lot of people who can only afford to travel by train. There are a whole lot of people who want to get down in between Bombay and Bangalore. So this is the infrastructure, right? So what keeps us going is the very purpose of the journey, which we think is very meaningful. What keeps us also going is the sense of getting it right, and having the stamina to sort of weather away the ups and downs. And I think the fact that we are growing like absolutely, what we have achieved in the last 12 months or 18 months has been more than what we achieved in the last 6 years, 5 years.
Okay. That's so great, sir. And continuing to the same question, I would like to know personally why, what was the idea you thought of merchants in India? Why you chose these people, and what was your personal attachment to this?
So first and foremost, that's a space I know well. I understand. I worked the FMCG space all across the globe. I worked all developed countries, including Europe, US, Australia. I worked almost every emerging market like Africa, Russia, India, China, Southeast Asia. What I was saying is that one was very close to the space, understood the space in a holistic manner, not just from a merchant perspective, but from the this is a very large ecosystem, right? You have consumers, you have retailers, you got 1.3 billion consumers, you got 10, 15 million retailers, you got 25, 50,000, a few 100,000 distributors, wholesalers, you got 500, 700 companies, brands, you got a large number of financial service players. It's a $700 billion industry. But what makes it more interesting is the product rolls over 3 times before it reaches the consumer. So, you know, once from the marketeer to the distributor, distributor to retailer, and retailer to consumer. So transactionally, it is worth about almost 1,800 billion dollars, right? Because there are so much transactional space that is happening. So if you have a role to play in every transaction, you are actually playing a $1,500 billion space, not a $500 billion space, right? So the scale of it, the value of it, the impact of it, how it touches the smallest, the lowest common denominator of the population, how it is the single largest spend of a household, and with given the economic downturns that are there, this is the most probably the least impacted by economic downturns. I mean, people will eat right at home, so this is an industry which is least impacted by the economic slowdown. So all of those parameters put together makes it as a space very interesting, right? The second thing is, do you have a product to offer, or is there a problem to solve there? And that's what we do believe, and we had enough knowledge and experience of enough success stories of it delivering impact. And last but not the least is there is the whole organization has a sincere moral commitment to the small merchant.
Great, great. So, sir, I would like to know, what are your future scale-up plans?
So we are today a platform which with about 25 to 30,000 merchants, and this business on the platform is approximately $1 billion. What we are going towards is over the next 2.5 years to make this platform roughly at about 300,000 stores, which would be probably a $25 billion to $30 billion platform in the country, right? But more important, so that is one. We are today in a few cities, but we probably will get down to being at 120 cities immediately, and then go to 300, 350 towns across the country. So that's the expansion, geographical expansion that we plan to do. There has been a lot of interest from overseas markets where we are working with partners, and some of the largest companies, like largest telecom companies and largest FMCG companies globally have been partnering with us, where our role is sort of limited to product technology and strategy, and in-market execution is taken care of by the partners. So that is another access to change. But fundamentally, what we believe is we have about a $30-35 billion platform by in the next 2.5 years is what we believe.
Great. So wishing all my luck to all your visions, and it will definitely be be what you want to.
Hope so. I definitely believe that we are doing many things right. I think we are the most trusted partner to a small merchant. That's if you ask me what is our biggest asset, we are the most trusted partner of a retailer, right? And today, all our customers trust us a lot to the extent that we get inquiries like, कौन सी school में बेटी को डालना है, kind of stuff questions, right? ये करना चाहिए, injection लेना चाहिए, नहीं लेना, so there has been a relationship that has been built. The challenge is when you scale up very fast, how do you manage to maintain that relationship with larger numbers? Because then that's again where technology has to come in a big way. So there are a few things that we have done very well. We have got a pretty good head start. I think the velocity of change is very favorable to us. So I have very little doubts whether it's. I don't know. It's about whether we will succeed is not the question. How big, how well, how fast we will succeed is the only point that is there. Yeah.
Okay, sir. So moving to my very last question of this session, what will be your last message to all our audience watching this Startup Dunia, all our startup people who wish to start something into FMCG or something like that? So as a guidance, what will be your last message for this session?
So first and foremost, if you want to do something, first and foremost, I think do your homework right. See, it is not about having bright ideas. We get a few bright ideas every day in life. So sometimes startups get overwhelmed by ideas, right? It's one thing to have a great idea. The other thing is to sort of do your homework very right. Secondly, including your initial research on the value proposition and what is the real problem that you're trying to solve. So, sort of dig pretty deep before you sort of roll your sleeves and start washing the dishes in the first stage, because that's where probably a lot of things go wrong, right? The second thing is be super anchored in the belief, right? I mean, you have to believe in yourself, and you have to have an organization and a team that equally shares the purpose. It is one thing to sort of look at things like valuations and things like that, but that should be an outcome of a purpose and a sustainable value delivery, right? Look at the sustainability of your proposition, right? I mean, in the sense like how easy is it for somebody to step all over you, and how sticky your business really is, right? Because that becomes another challenge with deep-pocketed people coming and just walking all over the place. So you have to look at sustainability of your proposition, your value proposition, etc., etc. So these are some of the typical challenges that one does seize. But I think the most important thing is to have that sense of belief in yourself, the organization, the purpose of your journey. To do things right, avoid, be committed to the cause, be honest about it. I think trust and honesty are very important parameters of long-term success, right? So it's like saying when we do work with a merchant, we not only make a promise as to what we will do for him, but we equally make a promise as to what we will not do to him. We tell him that we'll never transfer a customer or take your customer details and give it to somebody, right? So it's about that honesty and the trust that you build, because these are small merchants. They don't have a CTO or CFO to evaluate decision making, right? So obviously it's a lot works on touch and feel and trust, right? So these are some of the simple things that one has always looked at. Yeah.
Yes, so great. So, so with this, we are ending up today's session. I hope you like our conversation, sir. Thank you so much for being such a great personality I've been talking to, and it was very nice talking to you. I hope you liked our conversation. Please, last
I
two words
enjoyed
would
it
be regarding
thoroughly. I
like
really enjoyed it. It was a pleasure talking to you, privilege talking to you. You take care, stay safe,
yes, sir. You
and
too.
look
Take
forward
care.
to staying connected. Yeah.
Definitely, sir.
Through this opportunity. Really appreciate that. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, sir.
Stay safe.